to today's launch hour knowledge sharing session with me, Paul Erubami. It's my pleasure to be here again. I hope my audio is good enough and you can all see my presentation, my video as well. Okay, thank you. Thank you all for making our time to join us in this session. It's a weekly series, so I encourage you to mark your calendars every Thursday by 1 p.m. Most Thursdays I'm here, but once in a while, a few times in a quarter, for example, I might not be available due to business and other engagements. I have, competent colleagues and partners here at Max-Migold who will stand in for me and make sure the lunch hour runs. So make it a date every Thursday. I know many of us are aware of what Max-Migold does, so I'll just basically say, as a form of encouragement for the things we do for the workplace built environment, I'll encourage you to, and also for your own continuous learning and opportunities, connect with us. Our YouTube channel is enriched with close to 1,000 hours of quality training content available for now for free. So go and enjoy yourself with many of these contents. Our online learning platform is loaded with all of the topics we cover, all facility management courses, workplace productivity courses, leadership and soft skills, professional courses in HR and accounting and desktop public productivity courses are all available in our learning management system. Just go to facilitymanagementcourses.com and you will be given access to, lots of courses. Even the ones we are doing today, employee motivation is one of our online courses available for a small amount. You can study it in depth, do the quizzes and earn the certificates sanctioned by Max-Migold and accredited by all the accrediting bodies we are affiliated with. The FM Mastercraft Diploma, the flagship in FM education and qualification in Nigeria and Africa, starts the 22nd batch on the 19th of August. So if you've been thinking about moving up in your career, doing something different, or switching from what you're doing that's not been so fulfilling into facility management, this is your opportunity and the last for the year. So sign up at promo.facilitymanagementcourses.com. promo.facilitymanagementcourses.com and you're in. If you're not yet on our WhatsApp training platform, we have a platform that has more than 500 members. We also have a Telegram group that has close to 1,000 members. We encourage you to be there so you can be seeing our opportunities, our information, and so on and so forth. And then please like and share our content on social media. But for you to be notified that we have this content out, you need to be connected with us. So YouTube is maxmigold.com. Facebook is Max-Migold, Twitter, Instagram, and the rest. We have handles where you can connect, like, and follow. The team of Max-Migold will be dropping these links on the chat. You can all see it. For those of you on the other platforms, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, it will also be dropped for you to see and engage with us. At the end of my session, the content is a lot for today's session, so I might be able to take a question. If not, I'll be going straight to the WhatsApp platform, respond to questions. We only have 1 hour, and sometimes the content that we have to cover might be quite much for the 1 hour. But we try to keep it within 1 hour because we respect the time that you've given to us, and we don't want to take it for granted. Okay. Don't forget that we have a bonanza running for the FM. So talk to your friends, colleagues who have not taken the program, that we have a bonanza. The virtual class that is 500,000 is been discounted to 400,000. So you can sign up for the FM diploma on the virtual class and pay just 400,000. In fact, the 400,000 is valid for the long haul, right? It's an actual reduction, but you can also earn 10% on that if you pay between now and the in the month of July. So take that advantage. The fiscal class is going up from 600 to 750. We are also allowing you to lock in that old rate of 600 plus 10% discount between now and the end of July. And that's something that we're offering. And those are the only bonanzas we unfortunately can afford to provide in this last batch of the year. So no expectation of any further price slashes of bonanzas or scholarship. But of course, we still maintain our 50% discount for company subscription of their staff, a group bonding together to come and register as a group, whether male or female. Any association or organization that brings in more than 10 people automatically qualifies for the half price for the community, whether physical or virtual. We have retained this bonanza and this package as an ongoing incentive to encourage more people to take the program. And in the future, our study of the kind of numbers we get on the program is what's going to give us the incentive to bring down the price. The FM diploma can actually be brought down to less than 100,000 if we can get thousands enrolled for it. So we can actually have hundreds and thousands enrolled for it and bring the price, the cost of delivering it to as low as practically possible. So this is calling on all those who have taken the program to be active ambassadors, and those who are thinking about it, even if you have not been able to afford your tuition, to also talk to others about it. Don't forget, we also have something that we're doing that is unique, a flexible payment program that you can pay for as low as 84,000 Naira per month on the virtual program for 6 months. Your program ends, the class sessions end in 3 months, and you're still paying all the way to 6 months. And even if you have flexibilities that you require to pay a lesser amount per month for more months, you reach out to us and then we can work with us something for you. In all of our flexible program, we set you up on the Lydia Collect. It's a system that automates the collection, so you don't have the option or the choice of not paying once you are fully engaged, because this is training. So the day you sign up and your bank verification or validation takes place, we are as good as you have paid, because in the future, the system will just keep combing through your accounts to ensure that the payments you promised come true. So we are at peace with that. Okay. All right. So this lesson is very interesting. I know that many people would have been, oh yes, I'm not very motivated in my job, and I need to go and hear what Paul Arubami has to say about motivation, and many of us, have one reason or the other to believe certain contrary ideas about employee motivation. So you are here today as a supervisor, a line manager, a head of organization director, or even an owner and entrepreneur. You're also here today as an employee, who wants to hear the things that will make you feel happy, or hoping that your organization, your people, your bosses will hear this thing and try to motivate you. And so it's going to be an interesting time for us to learn what this is, right? So the first thought really is, if I ask you as an employee, what will motivate you? More than half of the time, the first thought that will come to your mind is, you pay me very well, don't stress me, right? So that's typical. That's typical. Don't stress me. Don't make me try it. Don't force me. Don't push me to do things. I don't like too much stress. I see many people say, well, I left the job because I wasn't motivated. What was causing the motivation? Well, the stress was too much, and how much were they even paying me while I was doing all that stress, and that become a major concern, because when I think about such responses, I'm telling myself, say, who was supposed to motivate that didn't motivate? And how was it supposed to motivate that would have been less stressful for you? So some of the things we're going to be discussing today, we cover both ends, right? The employer side and the employee side. This is becoming more and more important in workplace as time goes on. Motivated workforce is far more likely to be successful, at work. The happier and more professional an employee is, the better the results they would achieve. So that is a given. That is a given. In fact, that is the whole reason why we are here talking about employee motivation, because there are so many workplaces where there's a lot of motion, but very little results. Very little is being done. It's and there are so many things that can be done by the same people. The capacity is there, the competence is there, the resources are there, and for some reason, nothing much is being achieved, right? So what then could be the issue, right? There's a challenge the employers and management have in delivering the right balance between a confident, motivated workforce and a workforce which is driven to attain goals. We're not trying to turn employers into slave drivers. That's not the whole idea. Motivation is not about forcing or pushing. All right. There is that balance that you must create between having comfort, convenience, whatever the employee wants, and being able to get the job done, right? So if the job is not being done, there's no reason for being in the organization or having the organization in the first place. So we want to have that balance. We want to have both sides satisfied. And when you listen carefully today, you will find out that both sides can easily be satisfied by practicing motivational factors. In fact, employees are motivated by the work that they do. Okay, so we're going to look at a few theories that talks about how the work itself, how the work is structured, and the environment of the work can make it in itself become motivating. So we're going to define motivation, identify the importance of motivation, methods we can motivate employees. We're going to describe the theories which pertain to employee motivation, identify personality types and how they fit into a plan for employee motivation. Because again, one myth that you come across, and very common, is the fact that some managers, line managers or entrepreneurs or leaders have thought that if I know how to motivate by doing A or B, it will work. If it has worked for one team, it will work for all teams. If it has worked for one person, it will work for everybody in the team. That is fallacy, right? That is very, very wrong. So when we get to those sections in the discussion today, where we'll be talking about the personality types, we'll now look at some of the adjustments that need to be made. There has to be some level of customization, right? That will make motivation work. All right, so a message can be repeated over and over to a group of employees, but unless they believe it and believe in it, the words are empty. So the importance of psychology in achieving and maintaining employee motivation is very essential, right? We don't want sound over again and not the results we need. So let's look at the theories that will help us really think about how we relate, because this is all about relationship management. If you don't know how to relate, you will probably be applying the wrong approaches and not getting the results you want. So let's start with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Abraham Maslow created a pyramid that details the hierarchy of human needs, right? And that hierarchy created started with very basic things, right? Things like physiological requirements, food, clothing, shelter, all the way, and rank them up all the way to self-esteem, self-actualization, and all of the things that goes up at the top, right? So what he basically proposed that can be helpful for managers when dealing with motivation issues is first, provide basics, right? And don't try to overstep what you are, what the employee needs are, by trying to provide something at a higher level when the lower levels have not been met, you create all kinds of issues, right? And so you know how to graduate somebody up. For example, a sense of security and of belonging is important to the employee. If you know that your physical safety is ensured, you want to do your job without fear. Security is not merely a physical concept, it refers to the security of a person's job and the conditions that allow them to do the job. So if I provide accommodation, I have food, I have clothing, those are the basic things. But if I have the fear that I might, be out for something very flimsy the next day, then of course I'll have that lingering thoughts that is worrying in my mind, and that can be an issue. So having that, optimum approach, right, where you are providing the things at the base, and you are looking at the next step for the employee. So you're looking at the next step. What could be the next level? What else can you do to bring about additional motivation or secure the motivation that you have provided first? So that's how to apply Maslow's. But then we also have the Herzberg theory of motivation. And this one is a little bit, it may sound complex, but it's actually very simple. What this theory is trying to say is that satisfaction and dissatisfaction are not words and opposites. When we say words and opposites, right? When somebody says, I have satisfaction, right? Is it also possible to have dissatisfaction? According to Herzberg theory of motivation, it is true that you can have satisfaction and also have satisfaction. And that's very interesting because he separated the things that create satisfaction from the elements that create dissatisfaction, right? He called the elements that create satisfaction intrinsic, right? Things that are inherent in the jobs. And then the ones that create dissatisfaction, he calls them extrinsic or hygiene. So what basically is trying to say here is that you should create satisfaction and also remove dissatisfaction at the same time. All right, so let's start with the dissatisfaction. The dissatisfaction are the external or hygiene factors, like a good pay, job security, the work environment, right? He said if you do those basic things, now linking it back to Maslow's again, right? It looks like application of Maslow's in this sense. If you do those basic things, you will remove dissatisfaction. Employees will not be dissatisfied if they have, the basics, the wage, consistent medical, resources to do their job, a good working environment, and so on and so forth. He now said, but for you to create satisfaction, right, you need to make sure that the work has, sufficient challenge, has a good title, has a good structure, has, the right resources to get the job done, has some level of praise that come out of success from the work, and so on and so forth, right? So what does this mean, in essence, when talking about motivation? What it means really is that it is possible for me to have a team that are satisfied because they have, they have food, clothing, shelter, and they have all those basic things that are extrinsic, right? A good pay and all that. But that team that is not dissatisfied may not be satisfied, right? So the essence here is don't be complacent in thinking that, oh, I've provided everything. Somebody to provide lunch, provide drinking water, provide air-conditioned environment, provide comfortable ergonomic chairs, make the place so convivial and enjoyable and so on and so forth, and still be turning out very suboptimal results, right? So go into the work itself. Okay, so what has everybody been asked to get? What kind of goals or targets has been set? What level of competition do we have in the team? What kind of results are we expected? Are we setting the right targets? Are we meeting those targets? Is there a satisfaction that comes out of achieving, learning more, becoming better? Is there something that, you know, people get for being seen as being successful at work, right? You have to make sure that you take care of that aspect before you can now say you have a balance. You can't just say every time somebody says I'm happy or I'm not satisfied, take more money, take more this, take more that. You might end up throwing all of that in and successfully, you know, according to these theories, remove dissatisfaction. But until you deal with satisfaction by making the job more rewarding in itself, building and design the job in such a way that people have a reason beyond money to wake up and go to work, you have not dealt with motivation. So you can have people who have no dissatisfaction but are not motivated. That's the bottom line of the Herzberg theory. Pat Riley said there's always the motivation of wanting to win. Everybody has that, but the champion needs in his attitude a motivation above and beyond winning. There's something that, you know, the need to stand out brings to motivation. So you want to do that for yourself, but then your employer and manager should set the stage, create the kind of environment that makes that possible. Object-oriented theory, similar to the old theory of the carrot and whip, based on the hypothesis of riding the horse and using the carrot to encourage it to speed up, keeping the carrot in front, make it speed up, and using the whip to prevent it from slowing down too badly. So in essence, you are using a transactional approach for motivation. The carrot is to keep somebody focused. So there's always something. There's a salary at the end of the month. There's a bonus. There is, you know, there are certain things that if I work and if I succeed, if I excel, there is something I'm looking forward to, right? So that is the first part, and then again the whip now becomes the punishment, penalties for not doing what I should do, right? So if I don't have, let's assume I have a carrot, my contract with you is that, oh, keep doing what you do and you'll get A, right? They also have a whip in that contract that says if you don't, I'll be able to punish you, right? So of course there are, you know, varying philosophical conditioning around this. Oh, we're all adults, we should be allowed to do what we like, you know. But somebody has to pick up the consequences of everything we do. So if you want the carrot and you don't want the whip, you know, you have to have an intermediary who takes the whip for you, right? So if you get to the religious realm, that's where the atonement of Jesus Christ comes in, where you've committed the sins, you don't want to take the punishment, and somebody else steps in and say, oh, don't worry, I'll take on the burdens and wash away your sins, right? But in the case of getting work done, running organizations, there has to be, you know, the balance. You get this. Now, to think about what the whip does, if the individual does not have any such fear, any such, you know, nudge, something that pushes you, majority of us are naturally inclined to take everything for free and for granted, naturally inclined. So motivation will be at its all-time low and morale will be at its all-time low. That's a given, right? So we have to find a way to think about how to balance the carrot and stick approach, because it's not only the carrot that motivates, the stick also motivates, because if the carrot becomes a constant, a given, and the stick is not there or the whip is not there, what happens is that you can start having people who will automatically become demotivated. The carrot no longer motivates them because it's already granted that it will always be there. Now think about if an employee is told, you know what, if you come to work 20 days in the month, you get X payments, you get Y bonuses for achieving so and so targets and so on. Oh yes, fantastic, right? Now, if the employee is told, you know, you are free to decide whether to achieve it or not, come to work or not, what do you think the likelihood will be? Will the employee come to work every day? Or will the employee decide, well, I don't feel like going today, I'll still get paid at the end of the month anyway, right? And if you agree that the likelihood of becoming complacent and, turning back on commitments will become easy, you can tell the importance of why that other side of, okay, so if you don't come, we'll have that deduction, for example. Sometimes not even about the money. Sometimes it's the fact that we need certain things running as a process, right? So you're not coming is beyond the amount we're paying. You might cost us untold hardship beyond any expectation. So we need to put something more stringent that makes sure that it's only when you really can't that you decide not to, not when you feel like or out of convenience. And then there's also the reinforcement theory, right? If you think of training a dog, the chances that you put certain smacks in place for the dog doing something. If you come on the sofa, you get that punishment. But if I ask you to sit and you sit, you get that treat. It's called reinforcement. So what reinforcement theory basically does is, beyond the onset, beyond the setting or design of what needs to be done and what should come out of it, and all of the systems that have been put in place, there has to be a consistent enforcement, right? So every day you come in early, for example, oh, there's a cup of, hot chocolate waiting for you. Every day you don't come on time, or you don't listen, or don't do what the customer needs, and there's a complaint, there is a repercussion. So continuously implementing those pros and cons, positive and negative reinforcement will lead individuals to a point where they become consistent. Okay, consistent. Now, so whether what makes you consistent is the praise and rewards that come from constantly doing it, or the pain and regret, or suffering or unhappiness that comes out of the penalties for not doing it, one way or the other, that reinforcement has worked, right? It means that you now consistently. Otherwise, why do you think people they wake up, get dressed, and go to work even if it's raining, right? But I mean, if that day is a Sunday, they don't wake up, get dressed, and go to church, even though they make commitments to their pastors that they'll be in church. But then when it rains, rain becomes an excuse, because there is a positive thing that comes out of going to church. But when there's a little obstacle, you know that there's no negative, repercussions for not coming to church. And so you stay back, right? Sometimes it's just a series you want to finish watching in Netflix, and then you stay back. So there are so many things, there are many ways you can look at what reinforcement does, what continuous reinforcement does. And the same thing applies to children. You're raising kids, some parents will shout and shout, don't do that. If you do that, I'll do this, right? And then they do it and you don't. What you are doing is killing that behavior modification that takes place with positive reinforcement or continuous reinforcement. And it's very important that we learn this. So if you're an employee listening to me today, what should come to your mind when you see reinforcements taking place? Policies are set, stringent measures are put in place. Don't see it as punishment. See it as things that can, drive you to become better. All right. See them as things that are motivating, that can help you to become truly motivated. Because if you see them otherwise, then what you would begin to create will be resistance, right? And in many instances, resistance will lead to, a case of one bad apple, poisoning the rest, and before you know what's happening, the entire bunch or basket is rotten, right? So how do we take care of this modification and through continuous reinforcement? Identify the behavior that needs to be worked on, look at how the behavior is affecting the operations and the activities, agree with everybody involved in the work why that behavior is not an acceptable one, and then look at the existing consequences for for that behavior. When you look at it and you say, okay, it looks as if this consequence is not, making us not to, right? So what do? You change the consequences. You make changes to ensure that the consequences are commensurate. And I like doing this, talking with everyone involved, so we all agree. What should the new consequence be? Because it looks like default rate is rising to a certain. Let the suggestions come from the group. I tried this with my 5-year-old son about 12, 13 years ago. And I mean, he gave me a very, very interesting response. He said, the day I wake up late, if I wake up too late, make sure I don't eat what I like. Just give me yam and egg. And I thought about that consequence a lot, and ever since then it's been more and more interesting. I've not still been able to fully understand it, but as far as he was concerned, he was recommending a punishment that was adequate for waking up late to do his morning chores and get ready for school, right? Feed him with yam and egg, because as at that time, of course, he didn't like being given breakfast of yam and egg, and that was enough punishment he felt he will be able to accommodate. We had a discussion around that suggestion, and we settled for something else. But the point I'm making is that discussion had to take place, right? So you don't change or modify the consequences by in your own way. You don't just decide what might work, because at the end of the day, you might end up with more resistance, right? So have that conversation all the time. So again, how much of these can you use at work? Talked about how to modify behaviors with your pets, modify behaviors with children, but at work, we're dealing with adults, we're dealing with mature people, right? So I like to see it as being more explicit in the kind of contracts we have at workplace, so that people know upfront what those consequences are, right? We should not, out of our own whim or rational or irrational thinking, because of certain consequences that the entire group organization is facing, begin to take actions or decisions that might alienate a group or entire staff, a team. It's important to have everybody involved and let everybody understand upfront. I'm coming into a challenging environment. I'm committed to do my best. If I don't, I know what I should do to modify the behaviors myself. I'm not going to allow a group or a team to continually descend into poor performance or bad behavior. I won't allow that. So every now and then we need to really sit down and look at the numbers and see who is the outlier, who is doing well and who is not, right? And seeing if the one who is doing well at a certain level at the top is able to influence others all the way up. So, all kinds of theories have been put out there. Victor Vroom gave this theory of expectancy, right? So where he broke everything about motivation down into basically three categories. He said there are the efforts, right, that leads to the performance, that leads to the outcome, right? And his theory basically is that if we focus on the efforts, which is more like the inputs, we're supposed to have a higher performance, so that its first formula is increased effort leads to greater performance. And then greater performance, increased performance brings about a better outcome, right? So, of course, this is highly accepted in the business world, so that employers begin to look at, okay, so what exactly can we begin to emphasize at the level of efforts, right, to get to performance? But then what you need to do is have a proper monitoring or reporting system where efforts and the relationship between efforts and performance is properly logged, properly tagged, properly understood by all parties, right? And to understand this, he said there are three factors: the valence, expectancy, and instrumentality. Valence is the importance that is placed by the individual upon the expected outcome. If the outcome for a project successful completion is that the individual will be rewarded with more important projects when they would actually rather be rewarded with time off, they will make less, they will moderate their effort to ensure that they don't have that level of outcome. So in essence, we cannot assume what what we're going to place as the result of a positive outcome single-handedly. We should talk to the employees putting in the efforts to determine what the outcome should be. So if I want to do a lot of work so that I can have time off, and you are telling me, oh, if you do a lot of work, I'm going to give you more work. You have told me, that's what the balance concept means. You have told me to basically adjust my behavior, not to overdo anything, right? Don't over excel so that you're not giving more work. There are certain, of course, there are certain employees, there are certain people who thrive, excel, get excited by the fact that when I do all of this wonderful work, I'm giving more work. It helps me grow my muscles intellectually, professionally, and all kinds of growth I want to grow. But not everybody are at this level, right? So don't shove this down everybody's throat, right? Try to understand what the valence is for each team or individual. Then talked about the expectancy, the second factor. They believe that increased effort will lead to increased performance. In more simple terms, this means that if you put in more effort, the results will be better. This obviously depends on several other factors, right? Like the resources you provide, the skill set, the training provided for the team, and so on and so forth. So it's not always a direct connection between effort and performance, right? You may be falsely expecting a good performance when you have not considered, do they have the right tools? Do they have the right resources? Do they have what it takes to deliver? So that's the second concept room put forward. And then the final one is instrumentality. They believe that if an individual performs up to a certain level, they will be rewarded with an outcome that will be beneficial to them. This looks like the first one, but this time, if an individual says, if you tell an individual, if you perform to this, I'll give you, let's take the bonus reward approach, for example. This instrumentality means that if they do perform, they must get what they have been told, right? That trust that you will not disappoint them. Whatever instrument has been put in place to reward for the effort and the performance must be implemented. Okay, so those are the things that, in terms of theories, that will help us understand motivation. Just some concepts, not to forget. We have to focus on the individual. Again, like I said at the beginning, a one-size-fits-all motivation plan does not work for all, right? So if you create a one-size, you should also know who and who that one-size motivation is going to work for. So the importance of personality types is described by some as a kind of fat sign, but it's difficult to run an office or any other workplace when everyone has the same soft skills. There are different attributes, there are different characters, there are different behaviors and soft skills that people have, right? And for different personality types, you cannot apply the same, motivating activities or processes. So there are a few tools you can get for free online these days, where you can, everybody takes a set of questions, the same set of questions, answer them. Of course, they will all answer it the way they feel. And then when you look at the results, it gives you a breakdown of that person's personality type. What kind of thing the person would like, what kind of things the person will not like, and how you can relate to such a person in different kind of circumstances. Some can be that elaborate in giving you such answers and guides. So it's important to know personality types so that you will know who you have in your team. There are some people that are easy to make leaders because of the multiplier effects of their personality, right? So some people are very good at what they do. You want to pay them very well because, they do excellent work. But you can't make them leaders of the team because they are more used to, their personality type is more of a solo kind of delivery machine, right? If you make them the head of the team, you may end up, creating a team that is disunited, scattered, unproductive, and produce little results. And that person may not even be able to achieve what he normally achieves when working on his own. So, and someone else is not very good at doing things on his own. Personality says this person is very good at leading and motivating others. There is a sense in not promoting the one that cannot manage or lead others, right? Because you understand the personality type. Otherwise, the person can just be promoted, given all this team of people who don't want to work, and it just feels confused. And all of a sudden, that person that used to be, high flyer, very good at what he does, automatically become, discouraged, demotivated, and so on and so forth. So personality type is very good way to discover ourselves and the team that we manage. I've come to the conclusion that my subjective account of my motivation is largely mythical on almost all occasions. I don't know why I do things. Sometimes we can overrate what we know or think about each other, and even worse, about ourselves, right? So it's important that we have a structure around what we do, have a structure around how to manage motivation. And one of the key structure is to have proper organizational, team, and individual goals, right? So why do we do things like appraisals? Why do we have job descriptions? Why do we have tasks and targets? Why do we have a reporting system? It's so that each person can have a set of goals, a set of things they must achieve, from efforts to performance to outcome, that will be tied to that of the entire organization. So this is the starting point of having a structure around motivation. Let it not be that, oh, well, Mr. A likes to take time off, I'm motivating him by giving him time off. Mr. B likes a lot of work, I'm motivating him by giving him so much work, right? If I do that, I'll end up creating an organization that is unproductive, because I mean, even if I used to like doing a lot of work and you give me plenty of work without giving me any incentive, to motivate me to do them, at some point I'll stop. Okay, so that's the thing about goals. Anyone in a job will have some targets to meet with regard to their performance. This is just straightforward. There has to be a reason beyond this is my job. There has to be something specific I'm trying to achieve in this job, and the reason why I get up to do it. Okay, your goals again and again in this session on specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timed. Do not have goals that are open-ended or not bounded by the smart features of smart elements that we just talked about. And goals should be something that lead us on a path, right? So if you are working towards setting goals, if I achieve them, what kind of celebration, what kind of feeling, what kind of rewards do I get for achieving my goals? And if I don't, what happens? There has to be that structure around the goal as well, okay? Stephen Covey says motivation is a fire from within. If someone else tries to light that fire under you, chances are it will burn very briefly. So in essence, motivation is something that has to come from the individual, from inside. So we must have something that can be triggered that should lead us. So as a manager, as a line manager, an entrepreneur, a leader leading a team, I should not try to be the motivating factor. I should try to sensitize people on ways they can motivate themselves. Motivating yourself and others takes no small amount of effort and can seem like a fruitless endeavor. And motivation initiatives do not always take hold immediately. It takes time, takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of trial and error. So in building your own motivational plan, you have to identify, who you are, what kind of person you are. If you're a manager trying to identify a motivation plan for your team, you have to understand what kind of people each one is. Time available to implement the plan, the resources available to push the plan forward. For some time-sensitive projects, you may not have time for all of these analysis or psychoanalysis. But for teams that are steady working together on a continuous basis, then you should consider putting time into understanding what each person is, personality types especially. And then encouraging growth and development within the team in itself is a motivating factor, right? Development is something that is demanded by just about every section of our society today. workplace is not a different environment. If you are in a workplace and you're not expected to grow, you're not given any incentive to improve on yourself, to do something better, to be better, generally, you will not be motivated. Pay me and leave me alone will only work for a while if you get that kind of offer. The other thing is about the contagious effects or impact of motivation. One person is motivated, the other is not, is because of a difference in opinion that may be out of a paradigm, difference in paradigm of the two people. So what do you see, half full or half empty, right? If the one who sees it as half full is able to change the mind of the person who sees that, of course it's the same thing. The glass is 50%, right? Half full and half empty are supposed to be saying the same thing in describing what I'm looking at when the glass is 50%, but they're actually saying two different opposite things. One is giving me a pessimistic approach to what I'm seeing. The other is giving me an optimistic approach to what I'm saying. So there's a challenge here of ensuring that you do not grow an entire team of very pessimistic people. There should be something that helps gravitate those who are positive to make those who are negative become positive, because a positive mindset in itself is motivating, right? There are people who are just negative by nature. Almost everything around them is not good enough. Some hide under the perfectionist mindset. Some, bring up this mind of I don't delegate because people don't do things the way I want it done, and so on and so forth, right? But that's what we're talking about. The real thing here is, if you have a negative mindset, we need to first of all find a way to bring you to a positive end. That way, motivation becomes possible, because if you are not positive, you can't be motivated, right? So the inherent factors in motivational tools are that they fulfill a priority for the person concerned and they can be relied on, right? So motivational tools has to be something that is useful to the individual, not general. An organization is only ever as strong as its employees. So what we're talking about here is motivation generally, motivation for the individual, motivation for the team, and that builds an organization that is motivated. If the organization is not motivated, that weakness can lead to the downfall of that organization. Everyone has an idea of the perfect job, a job you are happy to show up for and will consider doing without being paid, right? So, if you're asked the question, do you like your job? Would you say yes, and be able to provide a list of what you like about the job that you do? Motivation is everything. You can do the work of two people, but you can't be two people. Instead, you have to inspire the next guy down the line and get him to inspire his people. So in essence, according to Lee here, you need to make motivation contagious. You need to find ways to ensure that people can pass motivation across. That's the only way the organization can become motivated. And then, of course, you have to address morale issues. As interesting and challenging as work may be, if there's a problem with morale, then it can very quickly run through the business and lead to underperformance, right? And the reasons, many reasons for low morale. If I have set a goal or a target and I didn't achieve it, will I be happy with myself? Would I want to quit? Or would I find a way to give myself pep talk to try again? If as a team or an organization, we don't meet our financial objectives and basic expenses, there are no resources to meet those expenses, how would that affect our performance in subsequent months? Are we going to just feel down and become downtrodden and not be able to pick ourselves up? In many instances, some organizations, just allow this happen, and everybody just whispers here and there, and things don't pick up again. Everybody just have those. We are all morally, our morale is down. Our mental state has been affected by one form of failure or the other. It could even be from mismanagement. The resources came in, we did all our best, And then that, expectancy and the other rules we talked about earlier meant that sometimes somebody in management took everything away, and now we are left with nothing. And then sometimes it's individual. Morale can be because you're having trouble at home, can be because you tried to pass a professional exam and you failed it, and all kinds of things. There will be individual and general, team-related morale issues that needs to be looked at, and that in itself needs to be addressed. Manager can affect team morale by being proactive, or being reactive and contribute to its building or its destruction. Think about coaches. A coach is managing a team of very expensive players. All of them are paid very well, and yet without dealing with the issue of morale, you can have very poor results. So what do you do when morale of the company is demotivated? If there's an absence of motivation, it can affect results negatively. A motivated workforce is absolutely essential to a successful company. And if there's an absence of motivation in just one part of the company, it can affect results negatively. If that lack of morale spreads, or a lack of morale arises generally within the organization, then things will be much worse. The worst of all is when an entire company becomes demotivated. This can happen for a variety of reasons. Occasion of this happening are that people will lose interest in their work, company's results will drop, and people will begin to fear for their future employment. An entire company can become demotivated for a range of reasons. Perhaps the most obvious of these is that the company seems set to go bust, leading to mass unemployment of its members of staff. While in some cases, this may galvanize the workforce to work harder in order to ensure the company's survival, market forces dictate that when a company is facing bankruptcy or liquidation, it will be extremely difficult to turn things around without outside investment and a lot of luck. Right? The mere prospect of unemployment can be enough to demotivate the majority of the workforce. Other reasons, why an entire workforce may become demotivated include the loss of an important member of staff or unpopular change in working practices implemented, and on and on and on. There are so many reasons why an entire team can become demotivated. But there's always the choice that needs to be made. Can we get out of it? If the answer is no, instead of running a demotivated team and struggling, shut it down at once and let everybody go at once, right? But if you know there's a glimmer of hope, there is that chance that we'll get out of this, then you must all agree to move and become motivated. There has to be that point where everybody sits around the table and say, look, morale is down because our expectations are not being met. We are not doing what we should do anymore. And as such, we may not be able to get out of this situation if we don't change our own individual and team performance, right? So it's right. Let me share my screen again. Okay. So that question at that time should now be answered by everybody. Shouldn't be a question that one person answers, not you at the top, Everybody needs to answer. Can we get through? Can we? Should we? Do we want to? And that's where you need that champion. You need that person who is motivated, able to influence those who are not motivated or whose morale are down, because you can't let it stay down, right? Motivation is what keeps us from giving up and refusing to get out of bed in the morning. Any way we can improve on our level of personal motivation is valuable. Whatever can bring that thoughts back. We can do this. I can do this. I should get up. I should do differently. I should do better. Is what is more important. And so each person in the team must identify, personal motivator. You have to have a record of personal achievements that you've attained in your job, the things that has come in as results based on your efforts in the past. These things will remind you to keep, doing more and being better. And even if not for the same employer, it gives you a record of growth. It shows you a pattern of growth. Many people have so much expectation, but they are not able to identify where they have succeeded. They can't trace where they are coming from in terms of achievements that they have made. So that's very important. It's important that you, as an individual, have your own outline of your achievements, accomplishments, whether for an employer or for yourself professionally as you move through the day. Because being able to look at it, so just like what we said, count your many blessings, name them one by one. That's what we're talking about here. It motivates you. It tells you that, oh, well, I've come a long way and I have a lot ahead of me that I must strive to. So in a nutshell, motivation is a two-way street. The leader, the team leader, the manager, the business owner, and the team that work in there have to play a role on both sides. The managers and the leaders need to understand each person, apply motivational theories and concepts based on what we've learned today that are helpful to the various personality types in the team. And each person having an inventory of what motivates them, being able to look back at their success and saying, yes, I'm doing enough for myself to keep myself going. All right, so that's our lesson for employee motivation is a big issue. Nigeria today, the economy is so down, sales are so down, business fortunes are, really down. Companies are folding up, right? We can't escape that reality. And so morale is generally down, but like I always say, it's only those who decide to motivate themselves and stay the course. It's only a matter of time. It's not a tunnel that's very long. This tunnel is very short. We'll get out of it very soon. But it's only those that stay the course that will be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel, while many would have folded up and packed up and run away. But every company that packs up and run away, that throws many people into the job market, the employees for choosing to stay down, low morale, are part of that decision because, of course, you can't eat your cake and have it. So the lesson here is we must all work together to make motivation positive in our organizations. Thank you so much. I would like to see who has a question. Okay, so if you have a question, in the WhatsApp group, please put the question there and I'll definitely respond. For now, I'll say have a good evening and a good rest of the week. Bye-bye.
There's a question from a Yusuf.
Okay, Yusuf, go ahead. Let's hear your question quickly. Yusuf, we have a minute. Go ahead and ask your question. Let's see. You can't unmute. Go ahead and unmute.
Okay. Yeah. Good afternoon, all.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Paul, thank you for this lecture. I, as a business owner, I can assure you that this is one of the best lecture I've received, I've ever enjoyed. So most of your lectures, this breakup lecture, I always, because of our busy schedule, I always miss some, or maybe I'm either there and often your motivative lecture given to us. Apart from some of us that attended your lectures, and you came up with this motivative way of taking a lecture, a free lecture to say for others. I just want to appreciate and thank you for this, your wholesome and wonderful work done. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you,
Much
Mr.
appreciated.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Keep being here and stay connected. Have a good evening,
Thank you.
everyone.
Yeah.